Hello, Lenny Baglieri here again with the third segment of This Is My Opinion, What Do You Think? Now this is my second taping and I think this might have to be done in two parts, so bear with me because the video might cut out. Last time I talked about my 4-point political agenda, which I believe to be an avenue of empowerment for every American to realize that they have the ability to change how politics are done in this country. I was expecting nothing less than many voices expressing pros and cons as to why it could or couldn't be done or how to proceed. And then, besides getting a few likes on Facebook, there was nothing. No real feedback. Your silence was deafening. Now I knew this was going to be an ambitious objective, but this was a real eye-opener for me. So you either thought I was completely off my rocker, or you had many other reservations like I did before I even suggested it. If I got involved, how would it affect my personal, professional, and family life? Or you don't believe it's possible, or you're comfortable with the current two-party system. Or maybe you're saying, who is this guy who believes in starting a legitimate third party? Never been done before. Never. So this segment is going to be about who I am and why I think the status quo absolutely has to be challenged. I'm just like you. Just an ordinary guy who's fed up with the politics in this country. Tired of sitting at my desk or in front of my TV, observing in disbelief, getting frustrated and feeling powerless, just like you. For years I've been saying, is this for real? These are the people running our country? Really? Does this sound familiar? My discontent is so visceral, I feel compelled to act. If we can act in a viable way. Does that sound familiar? I'm a guy who believes in grassroots movements because I've lived it. I've seen what Martin Luther has done, Gandhi, the feminist movement, the gay pride movement. I have seen people, when motivated and act in kind, can stop a war, the Vietnam War. The 60s were an amazing lesson in social justice, which had tremendous political consequences. The 60s, a decade of unrest and upheaval, never seen before or since. The Wall Street movement was the only real valid attempt, but it was misportrayed by the media and dismantled by misinformation about what it was really about. But that's a whole nother discussion. I've already told you what I think about our media today and why it is so important to step away from it. I'm a guy who is a byproduct of the American dream because my grandfather, like so many others before him, came through Ellis Island. A master mason from Sicily who used his wit, sweat, skill, and steel will to carve out two businesses. A self-employed contracting company that he lost in the Great Depression, and then after World War II, waited for his son to return from the war to build a summer resort in the Catskills that was a vibrant success from 1946 to 1987. A business that at its zenith employed over 75 people. A business that was built on very strong traditional Italian family values. A business that incorporated 3 generations of my family working side by side. Grandfather, grandmother, mother and father, aunt and uncle and my siblings, brothers and sister, and cousins. People who had a tremendous work ethic. A business I was involved in for most of my life that stayed in business for 70 years. I'm Catholic, who went to Catholic school up until 4th grade, who believes in the teachings of Jesus, but not the Catholic Church. I just don't believe in the hypocrisy of the institution, but studying Catholicism gave me a very strong moral base. But it was my family and their strength of their character that they gave me mine. I didn't have one role model who raised me. I had six. Three male, grandfather, father, and uncle, and three female, grandmother, mother, and aunt. I was truly blessed for having this upbringing, and I was truly blessed to live in an America that gave them and me the opportunity to thrive, as it did for most every other immigrant that came here in that era. And that is why I love this country. That is why they love this country. It was my grandfather. It's the reason why my grandfather came here. It fit the bill. Because if you had intestinal fortitude and the ambition, you can make it with your own two hands and brains. Even if you were uneducated like they were, there was opportunity everywhere for the majority of Americans, which made our middle class the envy of the world. But this is not the America we live in today. This is not the America I grew up in. Political divisiveness and polarity by extreme rhetoric and greed, mainly greed, has changed everything. This generation will be the first generation who will not have the opportunity and quality of life than the one before it in our lifetime. We are becoming a two-class society. The middle class is disappearing. And I'm a middle class kind of guy, and that really pisses me off, big time. Because it is the select few that are changing everything. Who the fuck do they think they are? And why do they think they have that right? They don't, and it's time to change it. They want you to believe it is the little guy who's ruining this country, but it is their entitlement, their entitlements, hiring the most expensive lawyers who are changing tax laws that only make them richer, with their influence with their lobbyists and over the Supreme Court, obliterating other laws that were on the books, one for over 100 years, that protected us. And 5 years ago, changing other laws that now has so much cash flooding into the system, creating super PACs through Citizens United. They're using that power and influence to control it all. This is not a democracy. This is an oligarchy. This is not the America I grew up in, and I want it back. I want it back not only for myself, for my family, but every other American who deserves a chance if they're willing to work for it. For every American who is given real opportunity to work for it. Opportunities that are few and far between and pales in comparison to my upbringing and the opportunities of my parents or my grandparents had. Like you, I want a government that will work for the American people again, and I just don't see that happening with the culture in Washington today. It is way too corrupt, with politicians bought and sold, and politicians whose main objective is to stay in office at any cost. And that cost is me and you, because they have lost focus by the money and the promises that keep them there. And that goes for both parties. A legitimate third party will level the playing field. It will change the dynamic completely. It will make the whole system evolve, which it desperately needs. I believe my 4-point political plan is the beginning, a pathway that can create that party. A plan that every American can participate in just about every social strata. A plan to empower you and many, many others that will affect real change. A few simple steps. Turn off your TV, but stay informed. Turn on your device with an app, which will completely connect you with that party in a much more personal way, where your voice can be really heard without filters or censorship, to create a real common consensus, and to reinvest your hard-earned dollars away from the big financial institutions, or you pull your money out of their banks and give it to other community institutions. Because if you don't do that, they will never truly get the message. To them, it's always about the money. Now, I know this may sound impossible, but with enough people who are truly motivated, it can happen. And as I had said earlier,